Hello and welcome back to Israel with Aline. We are in Galilee, more specifically by the Sea of Galilee. And today we are going to explore together the locations of two of Jesus's miracles. Miracles related to fish and the Sea of Galilee. So if you are ready, let's get started. The Sea of Galilee, it is fundamental for the state of Israel in modern times, but also for Israel in biblical times. To start, the waters of the Sea of Galilee are fresh waters. It is actually a gigantic lake with 13 miles in length, and from it comes a good part of the drinking water for Israel. And it is also a place where fishing is done and was done in biblical times. So it's very important for life and for the economy, and especially because Jesus chose to do most of his ministry around this lake. We have, for example, Capernaum, which is very close to here, a few kilometers to the north, the city where he lived and performed many of his miracles. We also have nearby the city of Magdala, where Mary Magdalene lived and where Jesus also visited. We have here an entire area of miracles that will be the focus of today's tour. And also at the end of the tour, folks, I promise that we will enter together into the waters of the Sea of Galilee. But let's first understand what is the place that is right here next to us. The story that takes place here, it is written in the book of John chapter 21, and it happens after the resurrection of Jesus. When Jesus is crucified, dies, and resurrects, most of the apostles return to Galilee. They go back to being fishermen. Simon Peter, Thomas, called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together. Simon Peter said to him, "I'm going fishing." They said to him, "We're also going with you." They went and immediately got into the boat, and that night they caught nothing. And then they hear someone here, where we are shouting at them to cast the net on the right side of the boat. And when they do, they pull the net that will be full of 153 large fish. And then they understand that who was here on the beach was the resurrected Jesus. And they come and bring the boat and stop here. And Jesus will be waiting for them with a table set, what we call here Mensa Christi, the table of Christ, where they will have this great meal together. It is where this church is built. Later here you can already see the stairs of the original church that was built in the Byzantine period, the first Christian period of Israel. And thanks also to these archaeological findings, we know that this is the place of the miraculous fishing and the meeting of Peter and the other apostles with Jesus. As you can see, this church will be destroyed and rebuilt several times. We can see the church that was built in 1933, less than 100 years for the datings of Israel. This is super modern. But why am I talking about this specific location? Because as important, or perhaps more important than the fishing itself, will be the conversation between Peter and Jesus in this place. And after they had dined, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of Jonas, do you love me more than these?" And he answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs." He said to him a second time, "Simon, son of..." He says to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He says to him a third time, "Simon, son of Jonas, do you love me?" Simon was saddened because he had said to him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." And an interesting thing about this passage is that Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Peter, do you love me?" Why 3 times? Wouldn't once be enough? We have to remember that we are talking about chapter 21. We are talking after the resurrection. This means that a few days earlier, when Jesus was imprisoned in Caiaphas' house, Peter will deny Jesus 3 times. So what he's really doing is giving a second chance. If Peter denied 3 times, now Jesus is giving him the chance to affirm his love 3 times. For the last dialogue between the two to be about love and not denial. And that's why when I come here, especially in normal or more normal times, when this place is full of thousands of pilgrims on average, 8,000 people pass here every day. And it's a beautiful place to sit and talk about God's love, to talk about forgiveness, and to talk about second chances. We are entering this modern church, but in the background we can see the foundations of the original church from the beginning of the 4th century, and also the original stone from Jesus's times. According to the re-editions about it, this meal of Jesus, Peter, and the disciples happened. And part of what we know about this original church that was here is thanks to Higueria and the book she wrote. She was a Christian pilgrim who passed through here in the year 380 and tells us details about the place. Very close to here, another miracle related to fish happened, the multiplication of the loaves and fishes, and that's where we're going now. The next place we're going to is very close. So we're literally walking, and this whole area is called Tabra or Eptapagon, which means the 7 springs, because here, as the name itself indicates, there are 7 water springs that flow into the Sea of Galilee. We've arrived at the location of the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. It's inside this church nowadays. But before we go in, I want to show you some super cool things that are here outside, starting with this stone circle here. Let's take a few seconds for you to look at this and try to guess what this could be. I'll start by telling you what date this is from. This is from the 5th century, meaning it's a little over 1,500 years old, and was brought from another church, not originally from this church, but from a church in the city of Hebron, the city of the patriarchs. I took another look. Were you able to figure out what this is? This is a baptistry. This is where people were baptized. In ancient times, people entered the church after being baptized. It was a time when there were many conversions and people would come here and could be baptized. And as you can see by the size here, an adult person can also enter by bending down. So here we see that adult baptism was performed. Comment below if you guessed or not that this was a baptismal font. And this one, can you guys also guess what it was? As you can see, it's also circular, but it's made of basaltic stone, which is a common stone here in the region as well. And the clue to what this is actually behind me. You can see there are olive trees. Have you figured it out? This here is an olive press. This region has 7 fruits. It has the 7 fruits of the land of Israel. One of them is the olive, from which olive oil is extracted. So the olives were placed here inside this stone that was placed upright. It rolled over, and here a paste was extracted that would later be filtered, and from it came the olive oil that was used from anointing to the daily life of the people here in the region. Let's take this moment that we are almost entering the church to read the biblical text. And Jesus, hearing this, withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place privately. And knowing this, the people followed him on foot from the cities. And Jesus, going out, saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick. And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food." But Jesus said unto them, "They need not depart. Give them something to eat." Then they said to him, "We have here only 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And he said, "Bring them here to me." And having commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and lifting up his eyes to heaven, he blessed them, and breaking the loaves gave them to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they all ate and were filled, and they took up of the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. And as we saw in the biblical passage, not only do they eat and are satisfied, but there is leftover food. How much food will be left over? 12 baskets. And the 12 obviously is not by chance. And it is not by chance that it was specifically placed in the biblical text. When I say 12 to you, what do you remember? Perhaps of the 12 apostles, but if we were talking about a population that lived here, which was a Jewish population 2,000 years ago, and if we mention the number 12, the first thing that would come to their minds are the 12 tribes of Israel. So when there are 12 baskets left, that is 12 baskets like the 12 tribes of Israel, it means like all the people of Israel, it's a message that not only was that food for the 5,000 people who were here, not counting women and children, but also that it was an open invitation to all those who are not here. If they want, there is enough for everyone. World. So Jesus leaves here an open invitation to everyone, and my invitation to you is to come in and see the church. Let's go! The church we are entering is modern. It was built in 1982, but built on the remains of 2 older churches. The first one is from the year 350 and the second from the year 480. But this church will be completely destroyed by the Persians in the year 614 and will be forgotten. Nobody knew the exact location of the multiplication of the loaves and fishes until 1932, when archaeological excavations began here in this place, where they found the remains of this church, including the floor. The floor that we are walking on is original from over 1,500 years, and it is also known that the miracle happened here thanks to Agaria, who tells about the church that was found now centuries later. The original mosaic is huge and very beautiful, but the most important part is the one right here in front of the altar, which tells what happened here. We can see the 2 fish on the side, and in the middle a basket with 4 loaves. But the question that arises is, why 4 loaves? If we clearly know from the biblical text that the miracle was 2 fish and 5 loaves, the first Christians in the Holy Land, who were the ones who built this church, they knew the biblical text, but they are here passing us a message. It's not that there are only 4 loaves in the church. The 5th loaf is present. It is present in the form of Jesus, who is the bread of life. So we see that these 4 loaves are right in front of the altar, where the 5th loaf is placed. And now that we've left the church, we've returned to the edge of the Sea of Galilee. And now the long-awaited moment has arrived. Let's enter together into the crystal clear waters of the Sea of Galilee. So, without shoes, everyone, I'm going to get ready. In just a second, we're going to enter together. The Sea of Galilee, as we said, is actually a large freshwater lake, and it is known by several names such as the Sea of Galilee, Sea of Gennesaret, Sea of Tiberias, or in Hebrew, Kinneret. It is 218.72 yards below sea level, and its deepest point is 141 feet. Galilee is the most fertile and greenest area in all of Israel, and there is also a lot of life within the waters. We have here a series of animals that live in the region, and within the waters there are 27 different species of fish. The most famous of them is Peter's fish, which according to local tradition is the species of fish from which Peter takes the coin from the fish's mouth. And it is very popular here in Israel, and most people who come to Galilee also stop one day to have lunch with Peter's fish. And coming out of the waters, we see here on the edge a lot of tiny shells, and they also show us how much life is inside these waters. I hope you enjoyed getting to know the place of the miraculous fishing and the multiplication of the loaves and fishes here in Galilee. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos straight from Israel. A big kiss and see you next time.